Eric Dane has an ALS and she came back. Behind every Hollywood love story is a truth few ever see. It's not all red carpets or paparazzi. It's heartbreak, forgiveness, and quiet loyalty. Eric Dane and Rebecca Gayheart seemed like the perfect couple. He was McSteamy, she was a 90s icon. But fame hides cracks, and their love story was more complex than anyone knew. Eric's career soared with Grey's Anatomy, while Rebecca left the spotlight to focus on raising their kids. To the public, they had it all: beauty, fame, and family. But behind closed doors, life wasn't so perfect. Hollywood love stories rarely last forever, and theirs was no exception. Scandal hit, a leaked tape, whispers of addiction, and Eric's growing mental health struggles rocked their marriage. Rebecca stayed strong, raising their daughters while the world watched their lives unravel. In 2018, they separated, and many thought that was the end. But it wasn't over. Rebecca didn't disappear. She stood by Eric as he faced depression and recovery. They co-parented with kindness and respect. While others moved on quickly, these two quietly chose something rare in Hollywood: to support each other, even apart. Their bond evolved, no longer romantic, but something deeper. Not every family looks the same. They were together, but they were never truly apart. In a world obsessed with perfect images, their story was real, raw, imperfect, and deeply human. This isn't just a love story, it's about loyalty when things fall apart. About a woman who stepped away from fame to protect her family, and a man who found strength in vulnerability. Hollywood didn't tell this story because it's not glamorous. But it's real. This is what family really looks like. Chapter 1: The McSteamy Rise. Eric Dane's Hollywood breakout came with Grey's Anatomy. Dr. Mark Sloan, charming, complicated, unforgettable. Fans called him McSteamy, and the name stuck. But Dane wasn't an overnight success. He spent years grinding through one-off roles: Charmed, Married with Children, Roseanne. He was 30 before anyone really knew his name. Rebecca wasn't just famous, she was everywhere. She did Noxema commercials before landing roles that defined a generation. From teen dramas to horror hits, she was the girl next door with edge, but fame had its price. Behind the camera, she was carrying a personal tragedy, a car accident in 2001 that left deep emotional scars. It changed her, and it changed how she viewed the spotlight. Then came Eric. They met in the early 2000s and fell fast. No media circus, no grand announcement, just a quiet, impulsive wedding in Las Vegas. To the world, it looked reckless. To them, it felt right. They weren't trying to impress anyone, they were just trying to build something real, away from the cameras. They settled into married life while their careers soared. Red carpets, premieres, magazine covers, they were picture perfect. But at home, things weren't always easy. Eric battled addiction and depression. Rebecca, still grieving past trauma, stepped away from acting to raise their daughters. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And for a while, it worked. Chapter 2: Love in the Spotlight. By October 2004, they were husband and wife. No paparazzi, no headlines, just a quiet idyll in Las Vegas. It wasn't planned, it wasn't flashy, but it felt right. For Eric Dane and Rebecca Gayheart, it was the start of something real, a love away from the cameras. A journey that would last 15 years, through fame, family, and heartbreak. From the outside, their life looked perfect. Eric was riding high on Grey's Anatomy. Rebecca stepped back from acting to raise their kids. They welcomed their first daughter, Billy Beatrice, in 2010. Then Georgia Geraldine in 2011. Red carpets, family photos, they seemed untouchable. But things aren't always what they seem. In interviews, Eric called Rebecca his anchor. She was steady, quietly strong. And when he began filming The Last Ship in 2017, he started to unravel. The weight of fame, fatherhood, and internal struggles collided. He was battling depression. And behind the scenes, she stayed by his side. Rebecca didn't post about it. She didn't chase attention. She just showed up every day for their family. But the pressure kept building, years of sacrifice, emotional strain. The quiet burden of holding it all together. By 2018, it was too much. They separated. To the world, it looked like the end, another Hollywood couple falling apart. But this wasn't a dramatic breakup. There was no war, no scandal. Only two people trying to protect what mattered most, their daughters. Their story didn't end, it just changed. Love doesn't always mean staying together. Sometimes it means showing up even after goodbye. For Eric and Rebecca, that's exactly what it became. Not a perfect marriage, but a lasting bond. This wasn't just about romance, this is what family really looks like. Chapter 3, A Private Crisis Goes Public. In 2009, a private video leaked online, featuring Eric Dane, Rebecca Gayheart, and model Carrie and Peniche. It was raw, intimate, and instantly labeled a scandal. Though no crimes were committed, the footage shattered their carefully protected image and made headlines for all the wrong reasons. The media pounced, tabloids tore into them. What should have been private became viral, dissected, judged, and replayed. Rebecca, long out of the spotlight, was dragged back in. Eric, still writing Grey's Anatomy fame, was suddenly under scrutiny for something far from scripted. Years later, Dane spoke about it. No regrets, he said in an interview. 3 consenting adults, I wasn't doing anything wrong. But he admitted what stung wasn't the act, it was the assumptions. Specifically, allusions to drug use. Was it a mistake? Maybe, but I don't apologize for living my life. Soon after, the couple took legal action. They sued Gawker Media for copyright infringement. The case was quiet, but reportedly ended in a 6-figure settlement. A legal win, but reputations don't recover as easily as headlines disappear. The fallout lingered. For Rebecca, it marked a deeper retreat from the public eye. For Eric, it became a shadow trailing his every move. A private moment turned public spectacle. Not career-ending, but unforgettable. Proof that in Hollywood, nothing stays personal for long. Chapter 4, Separation, but never apart. In February 2018, Rebecca Gayheart filed for divorce from Eric Dane. The reason was listed simply: irreconcilable differences, no drama. No scandal, just a quiet legal move that marked the apparent end of a 14-year marriage. She asked for joint legal and physical custody of their daughters, Billy and Georgia, and it seemed like the curtain had closed on one of Hollywood's more grounded relationships. But then something unexpected happened. The divorce never went through. No fiery custody battle, no public fallout, no Instagram unfollowings or tabloid wars. Instead, they went on co-parenting like nothing had changed. Side by side at school events, smiling in family photos. Still taking vacations together, whatever pain lived behind the scenes, they kept it offstage and led with calm, steady presence. It confused people, because in the world of celebrity breakups, this wasn't the norm. Most couples retreat, take sides, or move on quickly, but Eric and Rebecca stayed close. Not romantically, but emotionally, practically, and most of all, respectfully. The marriage may have paused, but the family didn't. Their daughters remained the priority, and everything else took a back seat. In 2019, Eric spoke to Entertainment Tonight about their dynamic. We have 2 kids, it's not complicated. It doesn't have to be, it was a simple statement, but in a world that complicates everything, especially endings, it felt almost radical. They weren't pretending things were perfect. They were just choosing peace for themselves and their children. Maybe that's what makes their story different. It wasn't about drama or closure. It was about quiet commitment, the kind that doesn't make headlines, but leaves a lasting impact. Because sometimes love changes form, but never fully disappears. And sometimes not finalizing a divorce is less about confusion and more about staying a family in the only way that still makes sense. Chapter 5, 2025, the year everything changed. Fast forward to March 2025, 7 years after Rebecca Gayheart first filed for divorce. After all the time apart, the legal back and forth, the quiet co-parenting, she walked into court and asked to dismiss the case, not pause it, dismiss it entirely. Eric Dane signed the paperwork too, no fanfare. No carefully worded press release, just his signatures that seemed to say, "We're not done after all." In a town where endings are expected and drama sells, their decision felt like something deeper, a quiet return to something they never fully let go of. Why now? There was no flashy announcement, no Instagram caption or staged photo shoot, but in an exclusive interview with E! News, Rebecca gave a small but powerful glimpse into their world. What she shared wasn't dramatic, it was honest. And maybe even more romantic than any Hollywood fairy tale. "We are best of friends. We are really close," she shared softly. "We figured out how to stay a family." Her words weren't rehearsed, they were lived. There was a calmness to them, the kind that only comes from having walked through the fire and made peace with the ashes. And I think our kids are benefiting from that, and we are too. It wasn't about rekindling romance. It was about preserving connection, staying rooted, protecting the parts of their life that still worked, even if the marriage had shifted into something new. Then came the line that made everything make sense. People think the end of a relationship is a failure. But it's not, it's a season, and we had a successful season. She smiled as she said it, not with sadness, but with clarity. Love, after all, doesn't always follow a straight path. Sometimes it evolves, sometimes it rests. Sometimes it circles back in ways you never expected. For Eric and Rebecca, the end never really came, they just paused. And somewhere in that pause, they found each other again, not as they were, but as they are now. "We're still married and we're still a family," Rebecca concluded. It was a simple sentence, but in a world obsessed with clean breaks and bold declarations, it landed like a quiet revolution. There were no labels to slap on it, no fairy tale boxes to tick. It was just a people choosing grace over chaos, unity over ego. In a culture that often mistakes divorce for failure, they offered another possibility, that love can change shape and still hold strong. That sometimes the most powerful stories aren't the ones with dramatic endings, but the ones that simply keep going. Chapter 6, the diagnosis. Then came the news no one saw coming. Eric Dane revealed he had been diagnosed with ALS, Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It's rare, it's progressive, and it's terminal. For a man once known as McSteamy, a role defined by vitality, the announcement felt almost unreal, a reminder that fame offers no shield from fate. "I've had leg pain for years," Dane shared. Now, I know why. It was a simple statement, but one that carried quiet devastation. For most, a diagnosis like this would be a full stop. For Dane, it was a comma. Another truth to carry forward, this time in the open. He had weathered storms before, scandal, depression, uncertainty, but this was different. ALS targets the nerves that control movement, stealing your ability to walk, talk, eat, and eventually breathe. There's no cure. Most patients live only 3 to 5 years after diagnosis. It's not just a condition, it's a countdown. But instead of hiding, Eric chose honesty. And in doing so, he gave others permission to face their own battles with courage. "I'm grateful to have my family by my side," he told people, the same family that had never fully broken, Rebecca, Billy, and Georgia. "And I'm still working. I'm returning to set for Euphoria next week." That wasn't bravado. It was resilience, a quiet stand against the inevitable. A man still showing up for the life he built and the people he loves. Because true strength isn't always loud, sometimes it's soft, steady. Sometimes it looks like a man choosing to keep moving while his body begins to slow. Eric Dane's story isn't about an ending, it's about grace in motion. It's about holding on to purpose, to family, to presence, and showing the world what it really means to live, even when time is uncertain. Chapter 7: A New Chapter of Love. Rebecca Gayheart has never spoken publicly about Eric Dane's ALS diagnosis. No interviews, no social posts. But her silence wasn't absence, it was presence. She showed up, she stayed. She quietly dismissed the divorce, not out of rekindled romance, but out of something deeper, because love isn't always grand or loud. Sometimes, it's choosing not to walk away when things get hard. Love evolves. It grows, and sometimes it returns, not as passion, but as purpose. Their daughters, now 15 and 13, have begun to express interest in the entertainment industry. And they have to rare examples to follow. Not just actors, but people who modeled what resilience, loyalty, and real commitment look like. This isn't a Hollywood comeback, it's not a tabloid scandal, a fairy tale, or a tragedy. It's something far more honest, a marriage that didn't end in bitterness. A couple who stayed connected through the cracks. A man who kept showing up to work, even as his body slowed. And a woman who chose to remain, not because she had to, but because that's what love does. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Here, we dive deep into the real lives behind the spotlight, stories of humanity, heartbreak, and quiet resilience. Drop a comment below. Do you think this is the kind of love we should be talking more about? Thanks for watching.